Oops, did I forget to invite you again? Sarah's voice oozed mock sympathy as she adjusted her oversized designer sunglasses. You know how hectic things get when I'm organizing our family park days. I stood frozen in my mother-in-law's gleaming, magazine-worthy kitchen, still holding the juice box my daughter Emma had dropped moments earlier. She'd spotted the photos on the fridge, pictures of her cousins laughing on swings, flying kites, picnicking in Wellington Park. Not a single one included her. I'm Olivia Martinez, and for the past 2 years, I've been politely, systematically left out of every Sunday gathering. Not that Sarah would ever admit it. Her brand of cruelty wasn't loud or obvious. No, she preferred the art of exclusion disguised as forgetfulness. It's fine, I manage, but the words shook slightly. Emma just misses playing with her cousins. Sarah smiled as she arranged fresh flowers in a crystal vase. Well, you know how it is. Family traditions matter. We've been doing these park days since Michael and Lisa were kids. She lingered on the word family, the way she always did, like it didn't include me, despite 6 years of marriage to her son James. Back home, Emma carefully colored drawings for cousins who never saw them, asking every weekend if this was the day we joined the family. Telling her no each time had started to feel like a slow betrayal. And Sarah always had an excuse. Oh, I thought James told you, or the group chat must be acting up again. As if I ever been added to that mysterious chat in the first place. Never mind that James usually worked Sundays in the ER. That evening, walking home beneath budding trees and blooming lilacs, something caught my eye. Wellington Park wasn't the only green space around. Maple Grove was just 2 blocks over, with its wooden adventure playground and duck pond. Cedar Park had trails and shaded groves. Pioneer Park had the best climbing structures in town. I was so caught in thought, I almost collided with Mrs. Rodriguez, our sprightly elderly neighbor out walking her golden retriever, Luma. Careful, Maija, she said, steadying me with a hand surprisingly firm. You look like your head's somewhere else entirely. Maybe it was the warmth in her voice or the way her eyes reminded me of someone who'd seen their share of unfairness. But before I knew it, I was telling her everything. About the park days, the missing invitations, Emma's quiet heartbreak. She listened closely, nodding. You know, she said, there are so many kids in this neighborhood who love something like that. My granddaughter Sophia visits, but she hasn't made friends here yet. And the Patel twins next door. Always peeking out the window, too shy to join in on their own. An idea sparked. What if we started something new? I asked slowly. A neighborhood adventure club. Different park every weekend. Open to everyone. Her face lit up. Now that's what this place needs, and Luna would love the company. That night, sleep was impossible. My mind buzzed with possibilities. I opened my laptop and started designing flyers. Join the weekend wanderers. Explore a new park each Sunday. Games, activities, community fun for all families. By morning, Emma was helping me tape flyers to lamp posts and mailboxes, chattering about treasure hunts and flower crown stations. Can I show the other kids how to make the crowns like you taught me? She asked. Of course, sweetheart, I said, watching her skip to the next post. For the first time in months, she wasn't asking about her cousins. By midweek, my phone was lighting up with texts. The Paddles offered to share traditional Indian games. Mrs. Chen promised her famous cookies. The Williams family had sports gear to lend. I didn't recognize half the names, but it didn't matter. They all wanted in. That Sunday, I stood at the entrance of Maple Grove, heart pounding. Emma clutched my hand, eyes scanning for the first arrivals. And then there they were, Mrs. Rodriguez and Sophia, the Patel twins bounding down the path, new families trailing in with picnic blankets and excitement. By noon, the park was buzzing. Sophia led a scavenger hunt. The twins taught a game called Toko. Emma floated from group to group, confidently guiding kids through crown making. Then I heard familiar voices. I turned and saw them, Sarah and Lisa, flanked by my nieces and nephews. They clearly come expecting an empty Wellington Park, their usual Sunday sanctuary. Instead, they found a vibrant scene filled with joy, laughter, and togetherness. None of it orchestrated by Sarah. She paused at the edge of the playground, taking it all in. Children running, parents mingling, Luna gently herding kids mid-tag. And there was Emma, beaming, surrounded by new friends, her hands weaving flower stems. What's all this? Sarah asked, voice carrying more confusion than contempt. This, I said, standing straighter, is the Weekend Wanderers. Want to join us? There's room for everyone. My nieces and nephews had already wandered into the crowd, drawn by the sheer magnetism of fun. For once, Sarah had no quick retort, just a silence filled with something like surprise, maybe even regret. As I turned back to help Mrs. Chen set up the cookie table, I felt a quiet strength settle in. This wasn't just a park day. It was the beginning of something bigger. And the Weekend Wanderers? We were just getting started. The Weekend Wanderers blossomed faster than I ever expected. By our third Sunday, families from neighboring blocks were joining in, drawn by laughter and word of mouth. Each weekend brought fresh faces, new games, and budding traditions. We rotated parks like chapters in a storybook, turning every green space into a new kind of magic. At Cedar Park, Mr. Patel taught the kids how to fly traditional Indian kites, brilliant splashes of color darting across the sky like joyful birds. Emma's cousin Lily spotted us from across the park that day. She lingered at the edge, wide-eyed, as Emma launched a purple kite high into the air. I saw Lily tug on Lisa's sleeve, pleading. "I don't have, sweetie," Lisa said hesitantly, glancing toward Wellington Park. "Grandma's expecting us." But Lily had already taken off, running toward Emma with uncontained excitement. Lisa followed slowly, watching her daughter's face bloom with joy. That moment, the joy in Lily's eyes, the faltering in Lisa's steps, was the first crack in Sarah's meticulously curated family routine. The following Sunday, we transformed Pioneer Park into a nature explorer's paradise. Mrs. Rodriguez, who, to our delight, turned out to be a retired biology teacher, brought blank notebooks and helped the children turn them into wildlife journals. The Patel twins discovered a rabbit family near the trail, and soon a dozen kids were crouched quietly, sketching with earnest concentration. "Mom, look," Emma called, waving her drawing. "Mrs. Rodriguez says I could be a scientist someday." Her voice rang with pride, her shoulders held higher than I'd ever seen. I was still smiling when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Well, Miss Hall seems very educational," Sarah said, standing beside my father-in-law, Robert. I hadn't seen him at a park day in ages, but I'd heard he'd been asking questions. About Emma. About the gatherings they never seemed to be part of anymore. "It is," I said simply, watching Emma dart back to her friends. "They're learning something new every week. Want to see their nature journals?" Before Sarah could answer, Robert was already moving, crouching next to a group of kids to admire their drawings. I saw the uncertainty flicker across Sarah's face as she watched him, genuinely engaged, smiling, present. The next Sunday, James had a rare day off. As we arrived at Maple Grove, I spotted Lisa already there, her girls spreading out their picnic blanket under a tree. "Hope you don't mind," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. The girls wouldn't stop talking about last week's bunny spotting. "And well, this just looks like more fun then." She trailed off, but the meaning lingered. James squeezed my hand. I could see it in his face, the quiet pride, the relief. He'd always tried to balance support for me with loyalty to his mother. But now his sister was here, his daughter was thriving, and the division that once seemed insurmountable was beginning to blur. The Wanderers weren't just a response to exclusion anymore. We'd grown into something richer. Potluck picnics where Mrs. Chen's cookies sat beside Mrs. Patel's samosas, games from different countries, kids learning new words, trying new dances, swapping stories. One Sunday, we held a community talent show in Cedar Park. Children and adults performed songs, dances, jokes, even magic tricks. Emma stepped up and recited a poem she'd written about friendship. Her voice was clear, her hands steady, her eyes full of joy. I'll never forget that moment. Later, as I packed up, I overheard Sarah speaking to Robert. "I just don't understand," she said, eyes fixed on Emma, now tangled in a giggling knot of cousins and new friends. "We had a perfect system, our traditions." "No, Sarah," Robert replied gently. "We had exclusion disguised as tradition. Look around, this is what family looks like." The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the grass. Luna trotted around, herding stray children with her usual enthusiasm. The Patel twins were teaching Lily and Emma a clapping game, their laughter echoing through the park like birdsong. I looked around at the community we built. It wasn't about retaliation or proving a point. It was about connection, about creating a place where no one had to wonder if they were welcome. And then, at the edge of the group, I saw her, Sarah, watching. But something had shifted. Her arms were still crossed, her expression unreadable. But there was no disdain, no judgment. Maybe, just maybe, there was understanding. A realization of what she'd missed, not just events, but moments. The ones that build bonds. The ones that matter. The sky turned watercolor pink and orange as another Sunday came to a close. I knew the next weekend would bring fresh adventures, more laughter, and new faces. And maybe little by little, a healing of old wounds. Because in the world of the weekend wanderers, there was always room for one more. The turning point came on a crisp autumn Sunday, 6 months after the weekend wanderers began. I arrived early at Wellington Park. Yes, even Sarah's beloved park had found its place in our rotation to help set up for our first harvest festival. Emma was stringing paper lanterns with Mrs. Rodriguez, while the Patel twins wound ribbons around tree trunks, transforming the park into something magical. That's when I saw her. Sarah, walking toward us with a familiar pie dish nestled in her arms. I recognized it instantly, her famous apple pie, the one she'd always guarded like a national secret. I thought, she began, then paused, adjusting her grip on the dish. I thought maybe I could contribute something today. Her voice wavered ever so slightly, her usual poise giving way to something I hadn't seen before: vulnerability. Emma spotted her and beamed. "Grandma, come see what we're making." She dashed over, seized Sarah's free hand, and tugged her toward the crafts table, where kids were weaving leaf crowns with sticky fingers and big smiles. Sarah hesitated for only a heartbeat before letting Emma lead her. I watched as her posture relaxed, her crisp edges softening while Emma showed her how to layer the leaves just right. It was subtle, but something had shifted. "Well, would you look at that?" Mrs. Rodriguez murmured beside me, her dog Luna wagging as if in approval. "Even the thickest walls can crumble, given time." The Harvest Festival was our most vibrant gathering yet. Tables overflowed with food. Mrs. Chen's mooncakes next to Lisa's pumpkin bread, the Patel samosas beside, at long last. Sarah's apple pie. Children darted between games, craft stations, and face-painting booths, their cheeks flushed with excitement and painted with foxes, owls, and falling leaves. I caught a glimpse of Sarah surrounded by children, teaching them how to crimp pie crust just so. For the first time, she wasn't performing tradition, she was sharing it. That afternoon, as I packed up leftover supplies, Sarah approached me. Her tone was quiet, almost unsure. "Olivia," she began, twisting her wedding ring the way Emma did when she was nervous. "I've been thinking about what Robert said. About tradition and exclusion." I stopped what I was doing, sensing the weight of her words. "I was wrong," she said simply. I held still, letting the moment land. "I thought I was preserving something sacred," she continued. "But now I see, I was just keeping our world small. Emma has more joy in her eyes now than I've ever seen in Lily's. And these families," she gestured to the people still gathered, chatting and laughing under the trees. "They've given us so much more than I realized." "It's not too late," I said gently. "The weekend wanderers were always meant to be for everyone, including you." The following Sunday, Sarah showed up early again, this time with an idea. "What if we hosted a holiday concert at Wellington Park?" she suggested. "We could use the gazebo as a stage. Any child who wants to perform can." Emma lit up beside me. "Can we decorate it with lights, Grandma? Like a real stage?" And just like that, Sarah was part of the planning committee. Her legendary organization skills combined beautifully with our more spontaneous, inclusive spirit. The concert was a collaboration in the truest sense. On the night of the performance, the gazebo sparkled with twinkling lights. Children performed piano solos, told jokes, sang songs. The Patel twins played a traditional folk melody and taught everyone a simple dance. Emma and Lily sang a duet they'd been practicing in secret, 2 voices blending, one harmony built on understanding. Standing in the crowd, I felt tears prick my eyes. Sarah reached over and took my hand, firmly, without hesitation. "I always thought I had to hold everything together," she whispered. "Keep it perfect. But this," she looked around, eyes full, voice soft. "This is what family should be. Messy, real, always growing." As winter faded to spring, our Sundays continued to evolve. Sarah's sharp eye for detail became invaluable as our events grew. She started hosting cooking classes, inviting anyone who wanted to learn her treasured recipes, including that once untouchable apple pie. The Weekend Wanderers became more than a neighborhood group. It became a symbol. New families moving in would hear about us and show up on a Sunday, unsure at first, then leave with full hearts and new friends. Children who once sat alone now led games, ran craft tables, and told jokes into the park mic. Almost a year in, I watched Emma show a new girl how to braid flowers into a crown, just like I taught her months ago. The girl smiled, shy but blooming, and I was reminded of who Emma used to be, who we used to be. Sarah sat beside me on the bench, hands folded in her lap as she watched her grandchildren play. You know, she said thoughtfully, I spent so long chasing perfect memories, I forgot that the best ones happen when you let go. She smiled at Emma, who was now leading a parade of children through the grass. Thank you for helping me remember. The Weekend Wanderers had started as a way to fill a gap, to answer the sting of exclusion. But it had grown into something far deeper, a community stitched together with open hands, shared meals, and laughter echoing across open fields. And in the end, we didn't just create a place where others belonged. We healed our family too. As the sun dipped low and Emma ran to hug her grandmother, her flower crown slipping sideways on her head, I caught Sarah's eye. She smiled, not the tight, rehearsed kind, but one full of peace, of presence, of pride. Some traditions are inherited, but the best ones are made together.